Hi guys. So gigs are starting to happen again, which is really good. The real problem I've got though is that I can't play fingerstyle because of that condition that I've developed, which means this is going to be the first time for decades that I'll have to play a concert with a pick. So what I needed to do and what I've been doing is creating a whole series of licks and things that I'll be able to use in gigs. All based around a pick. Now, me being me, I have to do things slightly differently, and so I've created a whole series of ideas, series of patterns or building blocks that I can play with a pick. And the idea here is to create building blocks that connect together. You can think of these almost like musical Lego pieces that just join together. So you can mix and match. You can take any idea that you want. They all follow the same set of patterns, and so they all cascade together. And so when you're improvising, you can pick and choose any of them, join them together how you want, and just use them when you're improvising. At least that's a concept. And that's the thing that I've been working on, and I will be working on up until my first gig. So I thought I'd demonstrate that, go through that this week. So as usual, I've created a PDF to go along with this video as well, and these just have a whole series of the ideas that I'm going to be talking about written out and put in the PDF as well. So just grab hold of that, download it. As usual, it's free to download. You don't have to subscribe. You don't have to give me your email address or anything like that. So just get hold of that. Okay, so what do I mean by these musical building blocks or these musical Lego pieces? Well, the concept is this. Each one of them starts with a downstroke and finishes with an upstroke. And I can do anything I want between that downstroke and an upstroke, but each phrase, each building block has to start with a downstroke and finish with an upstroke. And that means that I can cascade these, I can join them together in whatever order I want. And by thinking through this, you start to see there are certain patterns that start to emerge. So these really are not fixed fragments, but they're more like ideas, they're more like classes of movement. And you'll see that in the PDF, I've just taken notes out of the pentatonic scale, but again, the idea will apply to any scale or any arpeggio that you want to apply this to. So, you know, I'm just using it in the pentatonic to give you an idea here. So what I thought I'd do is I'd run through each class of idea, each class of building block, just quickly, and then we can talk about how I'm going to practice these or how I have been practicing these ideas as well. So let's zoom in and I'll show you some of the ideas. So let's start with the obvious one then, which is alternate picking. So anything with an even number of notes, say a 4-note pattern where you play at least 2 notes or an even number of notes on a string will fit the bill. So I've written down a whole series of 4-note groups that you can use. So a typical one would be just a simple descending line like this. And of course you can do ascending as well. And there's a whole series of movements that fit this bill as well. And I've put a whole series of them in the PDF as well, so you can try them. But the idea really is to just pick a couple of them and get your fingers used to playing them. So that's the first one, which is, you know, kind of 4-note groups. What about 3-note groups then? Okay, well, you can use this pattern for 3 notes as well. And typically the shape needs to be a single note on a lower string and 2 notes on an upper string. When you do that, you have a 3-note group. If you use a sweep, so what I'm doing is I'm sweeping from that lower string to the upper string and then a down up on that upper string, yeah? And that gives me a downstroke to start and an upstroke to finish. Yeah, and obviously you can play different combinations of strings. And similarly, you can start with that upper string as well. If you do that, you do down, up, and then sweep down for that lower note. Yeah, and similarly you can play different groups of those as well. So that gives me a group of 3 notes. And I can take that idea and apply it to 4-note groupings as well by starting with that lower string, sweeping across, down, up, and then sweep back to that original note again. And that gives me another 4-note group that I can play around. Okay, so that's another type of 4-note grouping that we can use. How about 5 notes? Well, 5 notes gets interesting because you can start creating those Eric Johnson style licks as well. And you can do it, there's ascending and descending versions of 5-note licks as well. So if I start here, you can see I do down, up on one string, then down, up on the next, and sweep, and I'm out again, yeah? That gives me my Eric Johnson type lick. And I can do an ascending version of that as well, where I start with that sweep, start with that lower note. So I sweep from that lower note to the next string, and then I alternate pick the rest. Yeah. And a neat way of thinking about this is to think of this as actually a hybrid of 2 of the ideas we've already got. We've got that alternate picking on one string, and then we've got a 3-note group. Yeah? And that creates our 5-note sequence. And similarly, you can see the ascending version is that 3-note group, and then an alternate picked string. Yeah, and once you've got that concept in your head, you realise, okay, we've got all of the building blocks we need now to be able to create 6-note patterns, which would just be, you know, alternate picking. And we've got to escape again, or 7 notes, which would be 2 strings and then a 3-note group. Okay. And obviously you can keep going with this, create 8-note, 9-note as you need to. Okay, so one thing we have to work through is that these ideas fit on the strings in very fixed ways, which means that you need to be much more agile in how you move between positions if you want to really sort of be able to play these across different sets of notes. And so that's been really quite important with how I've been practicing these. Let me show you what I mean. Okay, so first things first, what I do with each of these patterns is just get used to the movement. So if I just pick that 3-note pattern, I just get used to playing it in one position. The next thing I like to do is to see if I can move in one position on the neck. So you can see all I'm doing there is just taking that pattern and then moving it across strings. Okay, and once you can do that, the next thing is to just try moving between positions horizontally as well. So do it there and then move to the next position up, and then move back, move up. Okay, and just get used to moving between 2 positions. This is really quite tricky, but it's a really useful skill to develop if you can. Okay, and then once you've got that going, how about alternating between 2 patterns? Say the ascending and then the 5. And then you can take that idea and see if you can do that by moving across the neck as well. And obviously you can start alternating, and before long you'll start being able to move these around the neck in a much more free form and fluid way. Okay, so that's it for this week. As I say, there's a PDF in the description for you to download. have a play around with these. There's some really quite powerful ideas hidden in this video, and I'm really quite excited about them. As I say, I'm just starting to work through them right now, but I'll definitely be using these ideas when I start gigging, you know, at the end of the month and throughout the year. So that's it for this week, and we'll chat next time. Goodbye.